Looking for a beautiful flower that is rugged, tough, but not aggressive or large? Well, stick around. Say hello to Gray Beardtongue, a small perennial native to the mountaintops and uplands of Appalachia. In spring, this little pink wildflower puts on an amazing show of pink lavender to purple flowers that attracts tons of bees as well as other pollinators. And if you've ever hiked around the Shenandoah, Massanutten Mountains, or uplands of West Virginia from spring to early summer, you may very well have encountered this beauty. Look, when it comes to penstemon, these are a no-brainer. I grow around 6 different species of penstemon in my flower beds, and this one is probably my favorite. It just has a really nice color. And for penstemons that are native to the eastern half of North America, none seem to be as pink or purple as these. But I'm going to show you a complete profile on this flower covering the following. What is Gray Beardtongue and its benefits? How to identify it and its preferred growing conditions? How to propagate it and save seed? Wildlife and landscaping? And then we will review. So let's have a closer look at this little American beauty. So what is Gray Beardtongue? Well, Gray Beardtongue is a herbaceous perennial wildflower native to eastern North America. Scientifically, it's known as Penstemon canescens. It particularly grows in the Appalachian Mountains near the forests, along roadsides, and in the clearings. Its primary native range is from central Pennsylvania to North Carolina and Alabama, mostly sticking to the mountain areas in Piedmont. Now, you may be watching this and wonder why a pink flower is called Gray Beardtongue. Well, its common name derived from the stems or the hairs along the stems, as well as the stamens that resemble a tongue. So look right here, you can see how these gray hairs kind of highlight the whole plant and give it almost like a gray light outlining it. Benefits. Beauty. So this is one of the prettier penstemons that I've grown. Many of the penstemons of the east are whitish or gray in color. Think of foxglove beardtongue or pale penstemon. This one is a beautiful pink to dark lavender color. A cluster of this flower will be eye-catching, but a little more subtle. Its gentle pastel color will appear classy as opposed to a hot pink or something that looks almost Disney-like in appearance. Wildlife. The flowers of this plant do an excellent job attracting pollinators, particularly bees when in bloom. And it's quite entertaining to see a bee squeezing down the tubular flower to reach the nectar. You get to see the little bee butts work hard to get their reward. And the flowers become pollinated in the process, and it all works out for a nice symbiotic relationship. Drought tolerant. This species of penstemon can take a drought. So the first time I ever saw this plant was on top of a mountain in West Virginia with no trees around it, just totally exposed. Any plant that can survive those conditions is going to be very drought tolerant. Tough. In addition to being drought tolerant, one can easily dig up and move these flowers around in early spring or fall, before the flower stalks emerge or after the plant becomes dormant. You can divide them or just relocate them. They can also do okay with a small amount of foot traffic. Just this year I had to relocate a few of them to make a path for my dog as he spent the previous year trampling them while trying to chase cars. We have an electric fence. He wore a path through the yard and the flower bed, and, well, even given that abuse though, I don't think I lost any plants. They did take some damage though. Characteristics and identification. So, Gray Beardtongue is listed as growing 1 to 3 feet tall and clump forming. And my experience matches that pretty well, but I would add that the amount of moisture will almost certainly affect the height, with more water equaling more height. I grow mine in the functional equivalent of a hell strip, so not much water, really nothing besides rain, and I doubt my plants have ever exceeded 12 inches. But to identify this plant, the stem is generally erect and unbranched, so the flowering stalks won't have any branches, and they will be green to gray in color because of the hairs on the stems. For leaves, it will be oppositely arranged, clasping oblong lanceolate leaves on the stem, gray and green in color, with the short gray hairs. The basal leaves are ovate. At the end of the stems are racemings of two-lipped tubular flowers that are light pink to dark lavender in color. Now take note of the beard tongue here, which all penstemons have. After flowering, seed pods will form, which resemble little spheres, and each sphere will hold a lot of seed that naturally split open when the seed is ripe and the pod dries. Now I'm about to go into growing conditions, but I want to point out that all the info in this video and more is in an article at my website. I'll link to it below so you can check it out for a quick reference later. Growing conditions. So when it comes to sunlight, Gray Beardtongue will like full sun, which is at least 6 hours of direct sunlight per day. You may be able to grow it in part sun, which is going to be 3 to 6 hours per day, but I have not done this. Now also, if you grow it in the part sun, it may start to lean and flop, trying to reach for the sun. When it comes to soil, its natural habitat is rocky or sandy soils that drain well. So that being said, you should avoid soils that are consistently moist or drain poorly, as that may result in root rot. I've been growing this plant for several years, and I can say that it doesn't appear to be affected by disease, at least not in full sun and well-draining soil. How to save seed. So saving seed from this Penstemon is no different from any other, which I do have a video going over this in great detail. But in late summer to fall, where the flowers were, these little balls will form, and these are capsules that contain a lot of tiny seeds. When they turn brown and hard, they're going to split open, and that means the seed is ripe. Clip or snap these off just below the seed heads, taking care not to turn them upside down, which would dump the seed. Place them into a container or paper bag for a week or so to ensure they are dry, and then just either crush the spheres to release the seed or shake the bag, which can usually release a ton of it. You can store the dried seed in a cool, dark place in an envelope or baggie for a couple of years. One other note on saving seed from these. If you're going to the wild to do it, you don't have to worry about timing too much. Although the capsules do split open, they only dump the seeds if they topple over. So if the capsules are still in the air, even in spring, there's a good chance you can get some seed out of them. How to grow them from seed. So seed from Gray Beardtongue has a dormancy mechanism that prevents premature germination. To overcome this, the seed must experience 30 to 60 days in a cold, moist environment and exposure to sunlight. To achieve it, you can either cold stratify this in a moist paper towel in a baggie in the fridge, or winter sow the seed. I have videos on both winter sowing and stratifying in the fridge that I will link to. But let me just say that given all options being equal, winter sowing is by far the easier one. But to plant seed, whether it's stratified from the fridge or winter sowing, just fill a suitable container with moist potting soil, press it firm, leaving a ½ inch gap to the top. Then just sprinkle the seed on top of the soil and press it in with your thumb, taking care not to bury it because the seed must be exposed to sunlight. Then place the container in a location that gets morning sun and afternoon shade, and only water it by misting so you don't wash away the seed. Alternatively, you could direct sow this in the fall by just scattering the seed in a disturbed area. Germination will occur in the spring once outside temperatures begin to warm up. And this right here, this is what the seedlings look like, the cotyledons. And I had a very limited amount of seeds, so I actually separated mine at this stage with tweezers, which I don't necessarily recommend you do. But here's the seedlings when they look a little larger. So once the seedlings have 2 or 3 sets of true leaves, you can transplant them to their final location or separate the seedlings. I'll link to a video on separating seedlings below, and I'll also put a link down there where you can buy the seed. How to divide Penstemon. So in early spring, before the flowering stalks shoot up, or in fall after the seed heads have ripened, you can easily divide mature plants. Typically this is every 3 to 5 years. But simply dig up the clump out of the ground and then using a gardening knife or a pruning saw, cut it in half. Then replant the sections immediately. Both clumps should still flower after dividing. Wildlife. So the main pollinator I see visiting my plants are bees. There's many different species that are attracted to it. There's references that also state that butterflies and hummingbirds visit, but I'll be honest with you, I've never seen any visit my plants. As always, plant more plants to get more pollinators. I have around 8 to 10 plants in this little strip, and they put on quite a large number of blooms. I'd say they did pretty well even this year when I had to relocate them due to traffic from my dog, because they really took a beating last year. Deer and rabbits. When it comes to deer and rabbits, they seem to leave this plant alone. I've never seen any damage on any of my plants, and although I use liquid fence pretty regularly, I often don't even bother spraying these. So they may get some residual protection from other plants getting sprayed, but really these just don't seem to be preferred food. Landscaping. All right, so this plant is a really good choice for residential landscaping. It's small and compact, drought tolerant, makes gorgeous flowers in spring. I mean, I only grow it in this flower bed next to my driveway, and this thing really only gets rainwater. So even with the horrible droughts we've had over the last couple of years, these plants still seem to thrive. They don't spread outside of a modest amount of self-seeding, and that's easily managed in the spring once you can identify the seedlings. Okay, time to review. Eastern Gray Beardtongue is a perennial wildflower native to North America. Growing 1 to 3 feet tall in full sun and well-draining soil, it will bloom beautiful pink to purple flowers for up to a month in mid to late spring. Naturally found in the uplands of Appalachia, it can really take a drought, is tough, easy to propagate, and can be divided in the spring and fall. If you like Penstemon or the Beardtongue style of flower, then you really would want to consider adding this one to your garden. Because for the eastern half of North America at least, it's pretty unique in that it has really pink and purple flowers. The western half of the country has a lot more variety of color when it comes to Penstemon. Add to that its ruggedness and drought tolerance, and you have a flower that can really fill in a spot, look nice, giving you a good splash of pink in the spring. But okay, that's all I've got for you. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions at all, just ask them below. You guys all have a good one.